Hello, everyone, and welcome back to In the Paint, your weekly show covering all things high school basketball in Lorain County. I'm Marissa McNeese with the Chronicle Telegram, joined as always by my friend Rocco Nushi of WEOL. We, of course, have Kristen Bauer behind the camera. And today, Rocco, we've got a lot of playoff basketball to start. A little bit later in the show, though, some big breaking boys basketball news earlier this week. Pretty surprising. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but first, let's just jump right into it. A ton of exciting girls tournament action so far these past few weeks. Why don't you kick us off?
Sure, yeah. Like you said, on the girls' side of the tournament bracket, I guess we'll start with North Ridgeville, right? The Lady Rangers, a massive win over Magnificat. I mean, a 12 seed knocking out a 2 seed, crazy as is Magnificat. We know just a great program over there. So to pick up a win Tuesday night over Magnificat for North Ridgeville, that's incredible stuff. For Coach Amy Esser. I actually saw their first playoff game this year. They beat Elyria at home. So the Lady Rangers still marching on. They will be at Strongsville this Friday night. That game will be on WEOL at 7 o'clock. You can listen to it there if you can't go. So yeah, North Ridgeville Lady Rangers just keep on moving throughout the postseason here. I want to give a shout out to the Midview Lady Middies as well. They lost, unfortunately, to Medina. The Bees knocking them out, but hats off to Coach Jesse Bendick on a great season over there at Midview. Saw one of their games against Westlake, Olivia DeFranco knocking in a game winner off glass. It was a great shot and a great postseason run for Midview. So hats off to the Lady Middies there.
I want to shout you out, Rocco. I got a chance to listen to your call of that Midview Westlake game. What a great call to end the game. Really exciting. And it was a really great win for Midview.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just a tough win over a higher seeded opponent. Unfortunately, again, their postseason run comes to an end, but their season was not without drama and fun and game-winning shots in the playoffs, and that's what it's all about. So hats off to them.
And can we talk just a little bit too more about North Ridgeville? I mean, Look at this team. It's a really young team. I talked to Coach Amy Esser Saturday on our sports wrap-up show on WEOL. Jared Kozar and myself got a chance to talk to Coach Esser, and she mentioned such a young team, but really just a team that plays so well together. They all get involved, as we can see, a handful of players in doubles. A team that a lot of times you get this team with not a lot of experience. I think she said she only has a couple players who have actual varsity experience. And sometimes that works in your favor. You get a team that doesn't realize they don't have any business winning these games, so they just go out there and play, which translates into wins itself. So it's been really exciting to watch that progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of going back to that first game against Elyria, the one I was at, you could sense maybe a little bit of tightness in the first half of that one. They weren't really knocking down shots. Elyria was hanging with them. Eventually, North Ridgeville did pull away in that second half, and obviously they continue to roll. But like you said, you only have, I think, 2 girls that had varsity experience coming in from last year's team. So that's wild in and of itself. But you look at girls like Daylin Baker. She had 23 points the other night in the win against Magnificat. She continues to have a great season. Freshman Grace Kingery finished with 17 in that one. Madison Rosado had 11. So, I mean, they just have a number of different girls that can hit you in a number of different ways. They got bench players that can come in and contribute. They're not, starstruck by the playoff lights. They get right in there and do their thing. So I'm excited to see what they can do against Strongsville on Friday.
Absolutely. Let's shift a little bit over now to the boys' side. A lot of games, have yet to be played. The boys, of course, start their postseason a week after the girls. So there's still some games we're waiting to play out later this week. But a big win this week for Elyria Catholic, snapping a 10-game losing streak. It's been a tough go the second half of the season for Elyria Catholic, without a doubt. A tough season. They've struggled to find a rhythm, and it's been tough, but a huge win when it counts.
Yeah, absolutely. And the great thing about the playoffs, Marissa, is that everybody starts 0-0.
That's right.
The regular season success or failures, for that matter, they don't matter when it comes to tournament time. Again, you start 0-0. It's all about that second season. And Elyria Catholic taking full advantage. They get the win over Wycliffe 65-53. Great efforts from Alex Carandang. He had 15. Thomas Niederst had 14. Miles Lisner with 12. Colin Ginley with 11. So you get 4 guys that finish in double figures. That makes you tough to beat on any night.
Yeah, and I think that's something that Coach Rob Palmer certainly had been looking for all season, getting a lot of those guys involved. To have 4 players in doubles, like you said, I mean, that makes it tough. Makes it tough for you to get beat on any night. So, of course, now their reward is to play the top-seeded Lutheran East, a team that is constantly, year in, year out in the conversation for a state title, have won a couple over the past few years. So doesn't get any easier down the tournament trail for Elyria Catholic.
Yeah, no, it does not. No, it does not at all. You have to go play the 1 seed. We actually have another team that will now be taking on a 1 seed, Avon Lake. They'll be advancing. They have St. Ed's on Friday night. So, you hope for the best taking on those 1 seeds. It's always tough, especially with 2 storied programs like Lutheran East and St. Ed's. But, hopefully our teams are able to hang in there, maybe sneak out a win.
And speaking of Avon Lake, the tough thing, I think, their game against Valley Forge unfortunately has to forfeit. And so Avon Lake doesn't even really get that game,
right.
That warm-up game to, before facing Eds. They just have to practice and hope for the best when they take on the Eagles. And that's tough when you're facing a team that is arguably the best team in the state of Ohio. I mean, you can make that argument. Handful of other teams in that conversation, but there is certainly an argument to be made that they are the best team. And so now Avon Lake has to get out there and see what they can do against St. Ed's.
It's kind of the theme of the season for the Shoremen, isn't it, Marissa?
Sure is.
I mean, how many practices and games has Coach Eric Smith's bunch had to miss this year? I mean, it's just tough. Given the pandemic. So again, hopefully they're able to hang in there with St. Edward's on Friday night, maybe sneak out a win. I also want to give a shout out to the Firelands boys. They got a win over Akron East this week, 78-64. Jackson Talbot, the shooter, a career high, 31 points in that one. Great game from him. Mitchell Hodges, a double-double from the big fella, 16 points, 11 boards, sent 5 shots back into the stands, 5 blocks for Hodges, a great effort from him. Alex Engel, Kyle Ransom, each finished with 12. So big win for the Falcons. They'll actually host Cloverleaf this Friday night. That'll be a Stream 2 game at weol.com. So I'm going to tune into that one. So very excited to see what the Falcons can keep doing as their postseason run continues.
That's a team that has been progressively more exciting to watch these past couple seasons. They've been young, but they've really developed well. Boy, I wish I would have been there to see some of those 5 blocks. I have a feeling, I tend to get a little excited covering these basketball games. I imagine I would have been out of my seat a little bit for some of those, but that's just been a really exciting team to watch and see develop, and a team I think can make a little bit of noise this postseason.
Yeah, they really started to catch fire here at the end of the regular season. They had that week where they played Columbia twice in that same week, and that's where I thought they really kind of put themselves on the map. Because if you remember, Marissa, the whole conversation this whole year in the LC8 was about Columbia, right?
Absolutely.
The way they were scoring, the way they were beating teams, and then Firelands came in, beat them pretty good at Firelands, and so the Falcons and Coach Alan Januzzi, I think they really have something special moving forward here. And, again, they got a lot of guys that are fun to watch, Mitchell Hodges especially, the hair and all. So very excited to see what the Falcons can do against Cloverleaf on Friday.
No doubt. Another game we have to mention, Lorain taking on Midview. For those teams' first playoff games, Midview was scheduled to play North Royalton, their opening round game of the postseason. And again, another forfeit. So Midview advances to take on a Lorain team which has been in quarantine for the past few weeks. Their first game back will be this playoff game. So, I don't think this is going to be a game where you can say, oh, well, Lorain's got this one. I just think it's going to be interesting to see how Lorain comes out of this quarantine and plays, especially leading up to that quarantine. They hadn't had their star in Seth Wilson. They haven't played a game all together at full strength in a very long time. And so that one is going to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's been really hard to get a read on this Lorain Titans basketball
No
team
doubt.
This year, just with, obviously COVID-19 in the background, quarantine. You mentioned the injury to Seth. So you've had to have a couple of different guys step up and make plays. And they have. I mean, Lorain, they've obviously stayed afloat, and they'll host Midview as their postseason run continues. But yeah, just kind of weird circumstances involved in that game. Both teams kind of coming in a little cold. So very curious to see how that one plays out.
Absolutely. Well, we talked about it at the top of the show. And speaking of Lorain, there was a bit of breaking news this week out of Lorain. Head coach John Rossitano announced that with his retirement from teaching at the end of this year, he will be officially stepping down at the end of the season as head coach of the Lorain Titans. A little bit of a surprise, I think, for a lot in the community. That is a team under Coach Rossitano when he took over that had seen quite a bit of success. District titles, regionals, going to the state tournament in 2018, a really, really fantastic run. I know everyone in Lorain is going to be sad to see him go. There, of course, the coaching search is on. We don't know yet who will take over, but just a little bit of a shock this week.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think a lot of that has to do with this new guy, Rocco Nucci, coming to town. Rossitano saw 1 year of me here and said, nope, done, out of here.
I got to get out of here.
That'll do it. So, but in all seriousness, I won't sit here and pretend like I know the deep storied history of Coach Rossitano. Still fairly new to the area, but I certainly learned quite a bit about him immediately upon arrival, learning about, how great of a coach he is, great of a teacher, man, all that. So, I certainly wish the best of luck to Coach Rossitano moving forward, whatever lies within his next ventures. But yeah, certainly some surprising news that broke this past week.
Yeah. And of course, I've been covering that team, since, like you said, I'm not from this area either. When I first moved here as a team, I got really close to and covering pretty heavily. And just to see the success and to see how that program is run was really exciting. It was just so fun to be a part of, and especially that team that went to the state tournament in 2018. We talked a little bit about this on the girls' side when we mentioned North Ridgeville, but it was a team that had no business being there. Essentially a team without one superstar. Of course, you have Day Grant on that team who's now playing for University of Miami. There was Tay Pierre-Louis, a handful of other players who were incredible, but it wasn't the stars of the past or even now. So to see them advance the way they did, to fight with Cincinnati Moeller, just tooth and nail, taking it all the way. Lorraine had held them to their lowest offensive output that season. And that's a team that ended up winning the state title. So it's been a fun journey to watch, the John Rossitano coached Titans, and it'll be exciting to see what happens in the future.
Seems like the name of the game for Coach Rossitano is doing more with less. And that's not to knock any Lorraine athletes that have stepped through there over the years. But like you mentioned, when you're taking on just juggernauts year after year in the postseason, you're able to hang with them. I think that says a lot about what kind of coach Rossitano was and is.
Absolutely. So now we have to mention our First Federal Savings of Lorraine teams of the week. I think I'll kick things off this week, Rocco. I know I got to do our little teams of the week segment from home last week, but now I'm here. I'm taking over. I'm going to kick things off. Let's start with the boys. This week, our boys team of the week, couple choices, but we had to give it to the Elyria Catholic Panthers, snapping that 10-game losing streak, Rocco, in pretty exciting fashion. 4 players in doubles. Probably one of their better games they've played all season, and it couldn't come at a better time, like in the playoffs. So we had to give it up to the Elyria Catholic Panthers, and of course, wish them the best of luck facing quite a tough opponent in the top seed, Lutheran East.
Yeah, some reward for them for getting that first postseason win, huh? So on the girls' side for my team of the week, I got to give it to North Ridgeville, the Lady Rangers under Coach Amy Esser. I mean, again, you knock out the 2 seed into Magnificat. We talk about juggernauts, and I think Magnificat certainly could be regarded as that when it comes to girls basketball. And so for Coach Esser's group to knock them out, continue to play as well as they have been. We talked about some of that inexperience coming into this year, but don't tell any of those girls that. They are very confident in themselves right now, playing loose, playing free. Very excited to see what they can do at Strongsville on Friday night. And again, that game on WEOL.
Yeah, when Rocco and I first got to the studio discussing teams of the week, we said, who should it be? We both immediately North Ridgeville. We knew our girls team of the week had to go to North Ridgeville. So, of course, congratulations to the Rangers. And that's going to do it for us this week here at In the Paint. We have another exciting week of playoff basketball coming up. We come right back here next week. We'll have all of your coverage. But until then, make sure you're tuning in to WEOL for all of your high school basketball playoff action. Read all your recaps in the Chronicle Telegram. And until then, we will see you next week.